5 minute vid. Um, we'd like to welcome everybody to episode 0 of whatever we call this, or probably just call this I don't know, the TWP video pod or the Teutonia World, or maybe I'll just call it Teutonia World Presents. But whatever we end up calling this, the thing that we want to mention. Obviously, I'm imagining that you're not seeing any video production. Maybe we'll probably run just kind of the logos throughout this. Anyway, first things first. This will be kind of a general work in progress. I have to say that I really appreciate the people that reached out and said, "Hey, man, don't stop." A lot of people said, and other people just said, "Hey, good run." Appreciated those people also, but people just said, "Hey, man, you're burned out from the Bucks. I'm burned out from the Bucks. Everybody gets that." But I listen to you on my way to class. I listen to you on the bus. I listen on my way home from work. Whatever the case, really nice, you guys. Thank you very much. I think the one, again, and I'm so ignorant, I'm going to forget what the guy, one guy was like, "I listened to you somewhere crazy, like the Champs-Elysees or something like that." Whatever the case, appreciate everybody who reached out to people. The comics heads appreciated the last episode, obviously more for my kids than me. Kyle, I think, agree with my kids on the Miles Morales take or whatever, but I understand if that was confounding, either if you didn't watch X-Men 97 or if it's just like, well, this isn't my thing. Well, I kind of just wanted to be done with all of that. So anyway, here's what this is. This is the compromise. The podcast had growth for quite a while. The podcast was a 2021 phenomenon. That was the peak. So the bell curve of the podcast peaked with 2021, which obviously makes a lot of sense. And we got up to like a couple hundred people, which is cool and everything. But if it's not growing, and then kind of the numbers kind of went down back to like 100 or 75, and then it's not. And just again, I can only just be honest that there's almost not a week or a couple of weeks that don't go by where people don't send some very nice. And again, I don't do this for the very nice messages, but also I don't do this for any money, right? So somebody sends some very nice message about, "I'm crying watching this video," or "I like this," or "You're an idiot, Jordan did push," or "Wow, 2016 we've got," like, people leave messages. This is one guy who leaves a message every year on like a video from 2016. So saying all this to say, I know this is making me gag talking positively about myself. I'm just saying there's a relative permanence to the YouTube videos. Whereas if we do top 5, whatever, something dumb, we did top 5 Star Wars, Marvel, all these kind of things that we did. I don't regret the investment in time at all. Is really fun. And by the way, a lot of you like Kendrick. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But other people are like, "Oh, that guy Kendrick, he gives it to the light skins and he says crazy stuff and he talks, whatever people say about Kendrick." So people were like, "Oh, you should still get back together with the fellas." So this is the compromise. The algorithm hates me anyway. So there will be, again, just like everything else, other than TeutoniaWorld.com, which is still active, by the way. None of this makes any money. So the compromise for me is that this will be the farm system for other takes, which may or may not get made. I've got 3/4 of a video about the Packers going to a white helmet and what a terrible idea that'd be, from my perspective. Half in the can, but again, that's writing. And I'm really OCD about the writing aspect. Now, as everybody knows who listens about the takes, I can just have idiotic takes or brilliant takes. But either way, it's just like, this is what I think about the week. And if people want to listen to what I think about the week, then that's what this will be. This will be a partition off of the regular channel. So I hope for those of you who rock with all of this, if you see a video and it's if you see a number, that's the old podcast. This will be episode 0, 1, 2, 3. This will be one. It'll always be one take, unless the dog barks or something. And it'll just be every dumb thing I can say for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then we'll be done. And I think that will feed the beast. It'll satiate the beast of me kind of wanting to say this stuff, but becoming OCD about it. And then I want to put commercials in it. And then I want to take out the parts where I do all that, or when I pop my peas or whatever else. So we're just not doing that anymore, which was actually what was freeing about me going out to the car to just record to the phone. It just sounded like whatever it was. So we're going to turn down all the extra. This is the stripped down. This is the boom bap version, right? This is the, one guitarist, one drummer, one vocalist kind of version of this. And by all means, we would still ask that, participate, support, ask questions, do all that kind of stuff. But that's what this is going to be. Now, I do anticipate that I'm going to have to probably repeat myself. Yeah, look, if you listen to this, you're used to me repeating myself anyway. But I don't like repeating a take and then being like, oh, this take is so great, I'm just going to keep saying it. But what would be a good example? So if I stumble into saying like the top 10 NBA players of all time, for example, off the top of my head, which I could sort of do but not really do, if later on that becomes a video, well, there's a couple different possibilities, I suppose. Like I could, if there was any degree of popularity, just spin off an excerpt of the Phone Mumblers. But I don't really think that's a great idea, although people, I think, do that to spam the engagement. I'm not really here to like spam your engagement. I'm just saying is if I stumble into something like that and then decide to use that as a blueprint to make a good video with actual like production value and time put into, well, then that's win-win-win, I think. There was some kind of thought, or I could do quick reaction stuff, but either way, those will be numbered. There's some stuff that I do that goes viral, and there's some stuff that I do that nobody cares about. But either way, if you look at the number, you're getting the stripped down version. You're getting the old pod kind of version of it. And if people want to come on and we do interviews still or do all that kind of stuff, that all remains to be seen. But I don't particularly like listening to podcasts on YouTube because you got to put in your pocket kind of funny. You can't close your screen out. But that's just going to be what this is. And if nobody listens to it, that's totally fine too. But if you had to only support one with your comments and your thoughts and all that, go ahead and support the big video releases, which are going to be of the higher quality. And this is just going to be me complaining about this dumb Jrue Holiday narrative. And that's just what I happen to see right now, just everything else. So perhaps if I haven't said thank you to everybody, I don't know, man. Like hopefully people are cool with this, and I don't even mean cool with this by supporting it, but for those of you who are like, hey man, you can't leave. Like, all right, cool, but you're gonna hear what I have to say about the WNBA and the Negro Leagues and Jrue Holiday and everything. You're just gonna get the disjointed first draft of all of this. The Alien versus Predator nature of Celtics versus Mavericks cannot really be overemphasized. I wonder how people, full disclosure, I feel like I say this a lot. Please understand this is not shade when I say all the all the podcasts that I like listening to, I haven't listened to, and the ones that I don't like listening to, I really haven't listened to. So I don't know what anyone is saying, and as obviously, I basically stopped tweeting other than tweet this. Like, I'll probably tweet this out. So I don't know what anybody's talking about. How do we feel like the playoffs have gone so far? Obviously, aside from the Bucks. Terrible failure with the Bucks, but just in general, because, well, like, here's the thing: the Bucks get eliminated. I'm kind of a baby about it for a good couple of weeks, but then I kind of want the Pacers to lose, but then it's still kind of the local boy. Plus, who cares about the Knicks? But then the Knicks crowd is so loud, and then that went how that went. And I was happy for some of my Pacer people, but it was just kind of whatever. But obviously, Timberwolves Nuggets was basically so good, although that didn't end the way I would have liked. And it just, I feel like there's been a lot of pretty good. Would you agree with that? There's been a lot of pretty good. It reinforces my biases about the way the game should actually be officiated. But I feel like you've heard this take before. But so it comes right down to it, and the Celtics are left, which is appropriate. And then the Mavericks. So if you had to rank the hateability, this is just, again, just like everything else, I'm just going to shoot from the hip. I respect the Celtics. I respect the parquet. I respect their branding, more or less. I respect the loudness of their fans, if not necessarily their fans, but even that's obviously complicated. Brown and Tatum. It's kind of been a running gag. I mean, I'm sure this probably also came out in some of the podcasts. I feel like my brother's is more of a stronger take. He's been saying for forever the Brown's better than Tatum. And kind of what I've more... Obviously, you kind of... The genesis of the Tatum thing is you have to think about him in that draft with that trade with the Sixers for what's his name? the torpedo, the future of the Sixers, which is... always great. So he was just obviously Tatum's pretty good and he's overrated. And a lot of players, you can be they're pretty good and they're overrated. So we've always been kind of Team Brown, turnovers and all. And obviously Porzingis seemed to have won game one. And I was walking my dog and doing some other stuff during this, during game two, but I saw kind of all the important parts of game two. And yeah, man, Jrue Holiday, how about your boy? So all things being equal, what is Trey doing, by the way? The tweets that I have seen, people are kind of all into all of this. I don't know. This just doesn't have to be. This is one of the rare occasions we can just all be right, guys. We can just all be Drew's very good. And kind of I've always said, him plus Chris Middleton, if you could merge them the multiple man, that would be a third-team All-NBA player. And the problem is that neither of them were consistent enough, and one was great on defense, and one was adequate on offense, and the whole thing. They didn't play well together, and yet for one shining moment, Game 5 in Phoenix, everything aligned perfectly, and we're in the history books. And even some of you who listen to me, I don't think are admitting to yourselves, y'all hate on Jrue Holiday because it made Chris Middleton look better. And that's just what I think. I'm sure that part is at least out there, but it's Jrue Holiday. Again, so the question I have is when you guys see Jrue Holiday, are you mad? Is really the narrative in your head we would have won it all if it wasn't for Jrue Holiday? Man, Jimmy Butler, is it just boy, Giannis wanted to guard him, but you have to at least blame Budenholzer for that too, right? I don't even really necessarily want to relitigate all of this, but it's don't you I guess the question would be, if you see Jrue Holiday, don't you generally have good feelings towards him? Like, I certainly do, right? Right? We didn't trade him to the Celtics. He ended up for the Celtics. And I immediately was like, well, that's great drama. That's great theater. We'll see you in the ECF. Wrong. But, like, that's not Jrue. Like, he got traded. That's not Jrue Holiday's fault, right? And yeah, his wife ran her mouth. But, like, that happens. So, on the one hand, yes, I hate the Celtics. But you respected most versions of the Celtics through the years. You certainly respected the Bird Celtics, although that was a little before my time. But, like, you respected the good versions of them. You certainly respected the Pierce Garnett versions with Ray. And actually, Ray, very different, but similar comp, right? Similar comp. So you have that. You have all of our baggage with the Celtics. You have it's our Eastern Conference rival. You have Bill Simmons and all. You have all of that. Like it's closer. That stings in a different kind of way. And and I just got to be honest. And I'm sure I won't make this video. So I just can't tell you how much I respect Al Horford. Like if winning is the important thing, right? In basketball, if sacrificing and making the right plays and making your teammates better and setting screens and doing stuff that shows up in the box score and stuff that doesn't, like for all the talk about, we saw what happened with Jrue in 2022, like we don't win. Like, we don't lose that series in 2022 if he doesn't just own Giannis for, like, a half or whatever that was. Like, that was Giannis. That's, like, if Jimmy Butler is on Jrue Holiday's head, then, like, old man Horford always being able to play within 70-30 of Giannis and sometimes being 70-30 the other way on Giannis is, like, was the difference in 2022 along with a lot of other stuff. So, in my Hall of Fame, Al Horford, like, there'll be guys like Vince Carter who get in. Not a lot of shade to Vince Carter, just not a Hall of Famer. There are people who put up empty stats. There are people who've been around a long time. There are people with cool nicknames. There are people who won dunk contests and I love all of that. It's part of what gives basketball like such, what was the word I'm looking for? Just a rich culture, a pastiche of all these little moments, like little plays and little games. But like there's stuff that stands out. Like you need all of those guys. But there's not. It's just maybe a better way to say it is there's not a single team in the history of basketball who won a championship where Al Horford wouldn't have got minutes. From the most loaded teams, pace, style, whatever, Al Horford is a Hall of Fame winner. Like Al Horford would have played on the 90, go right down the list, the Warriors, the 96 Bulls, the 86 Celtics, any of the Lakers teams. He's just the man. And the right play at the right time, the right three at the right time, the right dirty play at the right time, just every little bit of it. So you have that, right? Like, I didn't want either the Celtics or the Mavericks to win a title, but that's that part of it. And then you got the Mavericks. I like Jason Kidd more than y'all, but it's not like I'm super happy with Jason Kidd. And, of course, that's just on the court or next to the court, right? The tenure with the Bucks went how the tenure with the Bucks went. I was a super big fan of him as a player. I emulated a lot of my game after Jason Kidd as a player. You got Jason Kidd. Then you got Cuban, who's not like likable in the best moments to me, and then kind of skated on the stuff that was going on in their, kind of frat house front office. So all of these are kind of neutral, negative to possibly neutral, right? Like I see Cuban, I don't have great feelings about it. And then again, so has anybody, because I'm not listening to any other podcast, is anyone anywhere? Because I haven't heard it anywhere, and I feel like the most interesting thing about Kyrie Irving is that what we were talking about 18 months ago. I mean, I wasn't talking about it publicly, but like the thing about Kyrie Irving, like half the world flipped on that, right? Is everyone scared to say? Is somewhere someone saying that, or is everyone scared to say that? Because he was getting, protested in the front rows about the Negroes and the Hebrews and all of that, and that was like, it feels like 100 years ago. And I'm certainly, this podcaster / videocaster / whatever is not commenting on any aspect of that. But it's like, is no one talking about how strange it is? Like, at least the Aaron Rodgers stuff like lines up. It's like the Kyrie stuff didn't happen, and then everybody like there's a certain political bit. And again, I'm not laughing obviously about all the terrible bloodshed, except to say I understand why it's really hard for everybody to talk about that. And I'm not talking about it except to say that, yeah, that was strange, huh? That was odd. Kyrie for me on the court is the most likable of, like, so kind of back to talking about like why the silver pivot, accidental or intentional, but whatever pivot where they were like, we're going to let y'all foul and stuff. The best thing about Kyrie Irving, man, I got so much to say. We should probably stop. This is supposed to be episode 0. We should probably stop before I get into all the other stuff. But like, at a certain point, I think, like I heard Doris say it tonight. By the way, Doris, Breen, JJ Redick, unacceptable. Moving on. The beauty of Kyrie Irving's game, like everyone talks about the layups now, that's been kind of interesting. Like, but in this new playoff era where people can kind of, some of the fouls aren't just a given. I think, yes, you see the limit of that kind of player, but the beauty of Kyrie Irving is he doesn't even travel. It's not even so much that he doesn't flop. He doesn't travel. Like, everything he does would basically have been good to go in 1990. Right? So when he gets it, like, and he's not like 21 years old anymore, but he still beats people up with quickness, on change of speed, on tricky feet. his native whatever, his shoes make me chuckle. Like, there's so much interesting about the way kind of he gets down, and you see like his utility as a second banana. But the Celtics are too good on deep. I just think, obviously, like, the Mavericks can still win this series. They haven't had a game at home yet, but like, they just shouldn't have been the West representative. Like, Jokic didn't get it done, and they played him too many minutes, and that's just kind of the way that went. Like, the Frenchman's like hitting fadeaway flip shots, and then it was just kind of a Timberwolves kind of game. And it's not so much a ding on Jokic's legacy, but that's just the way it went. It wasn't their year. They didn't get it done. But now we got to look at this Mavericks team, which, brings us to Luka. Let's. I feel like a lot of people did. I feel like people privately want to disagree with this. It's not so much that Luka Doncic is ugly. It's just I really don't like looking at his stupid face. Like, he looks like a possum. Like, like at least James Harden looked like Isaac Hayes or somebody doing all this. But if I have to look at this guy whine and throw his arms up to the ref on every play, with his stupid face and his stupid beard and his weird teeth, I mean, what? I'm the bad guy. Like, it's not. it's not prime time to me. And obviously he's made a ton of killer shots and the whole thing. And I don't really have a problem with him going after, I like him going after people in the crowd and all this kind of stuff like that. And he's made a bunch of monster shots. But there becomes a thing that's sort of related to the Caitlin Clark conversation, which we're not going to get into now. Maybe that'll be the next episode. Or maybe I'll think better about commenting on all of that. But because that's I mean, what has this been, like 5-6 minutes? That's like another 20 minutes. We'll just save that for episode 1. Or I'll forget. It's the real question. The real question is now, okay, so now the NBA has their bag, right? They got basically their new contract more or less locked in, and they negotiated a better deal than a lot of people thought they were going to get because the numbers are so down and everything like that. So the biggest variable is next season, and we won't necessarily know in the regular season, are they going to go back to just every version of the rip file and landing call and all these calls that we don't like, the fans don't like really want that. Maybe like the Twitterati likes it, but like nobody really likes guys flopping and falling down and jumping sideways into guys. But it's cool if it's cool if people do that, but half the time it's great if it's a flip of the coin. If it's a flip of the coin and it's like you're risking like the far jump ball, like if you're just basically risking a dunk going the other way or a call, at least the risk reward ratio like is on point at that point. But we're not really going to know if the league just tried to, if Silver was so embarrassed by the All-Star game and all that he finally understood that he should like pursue like competitive good basketball or not. I think Doncic would be very good, greatish in every era, but much like Trae Young. And much like Harden. It's really more the heliocentric thing than anything else, where it's like how much credit are you giving somebody for just every part of the offense is him, the turnovers are him, the assists are him. It becomes kind of hard to measure it when he just is the offense. And he's like a pretty okay shooter, but it's not like he's a great shooter. But the volume and the thing about less possessions, more physicality, then it becomes more difficult for any team to really pursue a volume strategy that works. And there's a reason that, like Barkley said, that the Nash Suns would never work. He said no team ever won shooting jumpers, or whatever the quote is. I mean, he said a lot on Inside the NBA. And it's just, well, the idea was that, yes, you can win one game like that, but this is the NFL. You're not going to win 7-game series after 7-game series just playing the volume game. You need a bunch of other stuff, and you need to be able to get it too. And all. I mean, it's not really complicated basketball, but the idea was, no, you're going to be too tired. Something's going to go wrong. You have to be hot 4 games. You're not going to get enough free throws playing that way. There's a lot of other variables. But when basically, and this is right back to Cuban, honestly. Sorry, I'm probably talking a lot. Right back to Cuban, I mean, this was the thing, right? The league cheated the Mavs against the Heat, whatever year that was. And then Cuban, like, brought out this standardization of officiating where it was just like, basically the last 2 minutes, but just we're evaluating every official, and this is what we have to do. And yes, Donaghy happened, all this stuff happened. The 2001 Bucks happened, the 2002 Kings happened, all this stuff happened. But like when they're basically like, these are the rules, and if you run into the other guy's armpit as you're going sideways, that's a foul every single time, or basically 9 out of 10 times, and the other time we're going to write you up. Well, that's how we got James Harden. And none of these nerds and none of these GMs and Morey, and nobody said anything about it. They were like, oh, great, we can take the risk out of this competitive game that we charge people exorbitant like amounts of money to go watch, even though the people don't play because we also tell them not to play. And so that's like a whole big thing. But like the question is like, what happens now? And at least, even though, man, I didn't want the Celtics to win the title. Although, keeping it real, I did predict Celtics 6-6. At least, because here's the thing too, and this is the thing that nobody will tell you. Like, people are either like, Kobe is a good way to look at this, because people are like, oh, way too much Kobe haters or Kobe worshipers or any of this stuff. It's good. Like, Kobe had terrible shooting performances all the time because, like, the game is hard, right? And if the game is properly balanced, you're going to have people have really bad shooting performances because it's like basketball is hard. This isn't the regular season. It makes sense. So that 6 for 24 stuff that Kobe would do, like, a lot, like Kobe's performance against the Pistons and just other, along with great performances, that's what you get from swingmen who aren't Michael Jordan. That's what you should get. So Tatum at 6'10", kind of gacking all over his jersey, like that's appropriate. And frankly, that's what we saw with Steph every time the team basically wasn't loaded, because it's incredible, but it's really hard to do it on command. And that's what we saw with Steph's entire career, and that really no one's going to say anything because he got that last title, but one of the greatest overachievers of all time. But like that stuff was never on command. It was great to run up the score, but like he didn't, even when they had Durant, like Durant delivered the kill shot because Durant can deliver the kill shot. Like, it's just really hard. As we saw with Lillard, unfortunately, like, a lot of times what you need is not a 36-foot step back. That's not what you want. And if you want to try that, like, to the victor go the spoils, but either way, now there are decisions to be made. And they robbed a decade of us from us, just being like, no, this is the way to play. Just play this way at all times. And now, like, there's a risk reward quotient where it's just like, okay, so now what? And when a guy like Luka hits that step back, whatever game that was, you just give him full marks, because we want to enjoy and appreciate that shot. We want to appreciate, the ballsy nature of that, as opposed to just being like, well, that's just what you do, And but like, under that, you're gonna have a bunch of stuff where guys like Tatum just can't quite do it, which is fine. So I guess, like, I'll switch back to, like, kind of rooting for Dallas to make it a series, but really, frankly, I've been watching, kind of rooting for Kyrie to score when Kyrie has the ball, and rooting against Doncic and rooting for his turnovers when he has it, and rooting for everything Jrue does and Horford does, and kind of rooting for Brown and not Tatum. And I don't particularly hate Tatum, but I don't know. To me, it's just kind of funny if he's not Finals MVP. So yeah. So again, my 5 minutes is probably lapsed. So that's what this will be. We'll title this whatever we'll title this. I will put, like, a static picture up over this. By all means, tell a friend or whatever. And, yeah, I don't know. Zip it up, zip it out.